Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'll try to stay close to the microphones here so everyone can hear me. As she stated, my name is Cody Brown. I am the First Assistant District Attorney here in Warren County. I am one of the 3 attorneys that prosecutes criminal cases here in the county. This presentation I started just because out of interest, and then evolved into giving this presentation to numerous clubs and organizations. So I really appreciate you guys all being here. The presentation is based more so on the police reports, eyewitness testimony, the actual jury trial, and some of that stuff. I know everyone has heard of the book Murder in a Courtroom. My presentation is more focused on what we do and what was presented at the trial. So a little bit about Norman Moon. Norman Moon was originally from Connellsville, PA, just south of Pittsburgh. He was known as being a gentle and shy person. He quit school early on his senior year, February 1944, in order to join the Army and fight in World War II. He fought at some of the famous battles, such as Battle of the Bulge. He was in the Army Air Corps and flew 24 missions over Germany. He was discharged as a staff sergeant on November 4th, 1945, one day after he turned 19 years old. After returning home from the war, he joined the family business, Moon and Sons Construction. In 1949, the company took a job working up north here in Warren, doing utility work and running lines that way. It was while he was working in the Tribute area, he met a young woman named Janet Swab. And at that time, in 1949, he was 23 years old. Less than a month after they met, they were married, and that was on July 1st, 1949. And at that time, Janet was 21 years old. A little bit about Judge Wade. He was the 20th president judge here in Warren County and was serving from 1942 until the day of his death. And that's a picture of him here at the bench. So how did we get here? In 1941, as I said, Norman and Janet were married. They moved around a lot. They moved to Colorado, and they moved back to Fayette County. In July 1952, Janet filed a complaint with the Fayette County Police alleging that Moon had assaulted her. And then in September 8th exactly, 1952, she moved back to Warren County and filed a claim for desertion and non-support, seeking alimony from Mr. Moon. On December 29th, 1952, the court ordered Norman to pay Janet $30 a week in support. In inflation terms, that is equal to $339 a week. Moon never complied with that order. He refused to pay, and he felt that Warren County did not have the authority to issue that kind of order over him. He actually appealed it to the PA Superior Court, and they agreed with Judge Wade and said, yes, they have jurisdiction, he has to pay. And because of that, he was ordered to appear here in this courtroom on January 13th, 1954. So before Norman came to Warren County to appear as he was ordered, he stopped at a small sportsman shop just outside of Pittsburgh called the Swap Shop. He purchased a Colt 45 automatic pistol, which is sitting right here in this box. And at that time, there was a requirement in the state of Pennsylvania, or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that you had to wait 2 days before you were allowed to take that firearm, so the police could do any kind of background that they needed to do. However, Mr. Moon convinced the shop owner not to go with that, and actually gave him the gun that day. This right here is a photo of the purchase and application for that firearm. And this was a retired military pistol that was used. Approximately 11 a.m. That morning, the matter of Janet Moon versus Norman Moon was brought to the court's attention. And here are some photos of what the courtroom looked like at that time. It's very similar to what you see, except for there was a tile floor, there was no carpeting. That morning, Norman's attorney was not able to attend that scheduled hearing. The DA asked Norman if he wanted to wait the judge was willing to wait and hear that case in the afternoon. When his attorney could arrive, and Norman said no, he just wanted to get it over and done with. When the judge heard that, the judge asked Norman, "Will you please come up to the bench?" Which he was asking him to come right here. As Norman stood up to approach the judge, he drew from his waistband a Colt .45 pistol. The DA stated, "In a quick flash, I noticed something bulging there, which appeared like a holster gun, and he started to reach down for it. I immediately got up and made a dash for the door leading to the exit in the rear of the courtroom." The DA got halfway across the room. He heard a shot, which caused him to duck, while he continued to exit the room. So the DA was standing around this area. He got up and was running to where Olive was laying on the floor. 2 to 3 feet away from the court reporter's desk, addressing the judge, when he noticed Norman standing up and was walking towards the bench. So at that time, that attorney was standing here, where this table should be. He was standing about this area. At the first shot, I immediately fell to the floor. I first crawled around behind the witness stand. He then crawled on his stomach over to the door into the judge's chambers. Once inside the judge's chambers, Attorney Hansen called the police to inform them what was happening. So he crawled in between here and went through that door, which is marked judge's chambers. Mr. Sears' account, he was seated in front of Judge Wade when the shooting started, so he was seated right here at the bench. When the first shot was fired, I stood up not knowing what was going on. I dropped as soon as I saw what was happening on the floor. There was 1 or 2 additional shots at the time as he came up to my desk. Norman then approached the west side of the desk and proceeded towards the judge. The Judge Wade was trying to get to the east end of the platform. So there was a couple shots fired in this direction. The first one hit in front of the jury box here, about where the microphone stand is. And then there was another one here on the wall. That bullet hole is right here. These are crime scene photos of the bullet holes. This one is this name, which struck the judge's bench right here. The courtroom. Norman casually grabbed his jacket, walked out the courtroom and down out the front door. He was confronted by an attorney, Samuel Bonavita, as he went out into the parking lot. Attorney Bonavita approached Moon as he was attempting to enter his mother's 1950 four-door Dodge sedan. According to Attorney Bonavita, he said, when I got to him, I said, "You're not going any place, bud." Norman pointed to 45 caliber. Attorney Bonavita referred to it as a revolver. That was in his right hand, and said, "Don't try to stop me or I'll shoot you." This was all taking place while 2 state police men were actually walking in the side door of the courthouse. So they kind of crossed paths. Norman noticed them, and he pointed the gun at the unknowing police officer and said, "It's all over. I may as well finish it now." Attorney Bonavita was telling Moon not to do it, and Moon eventually lowered the gun and got into the vehicle. He got into his vehicle and headed west down 4th Avenue. Attorney Bonavita then ran into the courthouse and informed the police officers that Moon was getting away. The officers jumped into a vehicle and told Attorney Bonavita, to get in as well, as he was going to have to identify Moon for them. They caught up to Mr. Moon's vehicle as he was reaching the highway just outside of town. The officers were yelling at him to stop, in which Moon ignored and continued to drive. Because Moon had a firearm, the officers decided to start shooting at his tires. After several shots, they hit the tires and he pulled over. Moon got out of the left side of the car, out the left front door, and as he got out, he turned to face the officers. At that time, he had the .45 And as Moon was raising his revolver, he fired and shot himself, and he spun around and fell on the ground. Norman Moon survived that shot. It went into his neck and also took part of his toenail. And after he survived, he was charged with murder of Judge Wade. While in the hospital, he gave a statement to the police in which he told them that he planned on killing two individuals that day, Judge Wade and Attorney Hanson. At the trial, he was represented by three attorneys, Samuel Kramer, Thomas Wagner, and E.H. Besham. Judge Wade was pronounced dead here in the courtroom. He was found to have died from laceration to his heart, lung, and liver. The bullets grazed the functional organs. The doctor, Dr. Thompson, who was sitting here, was the one who pronounced him dead in the courtroom. This is a photo from his funeral that took place at Trinity Church around the west end of town. Judge Wade is buried up in Oakland Cemetery, just outside of town. Judge Wade was the first judge to be shot and killed on the bench in the United States. The owner of that sports shop that sold Norman the firearm was prosecuted for not following the state laws as he should. Norman was tried for murder and he was convicted. It took 6.5 days for a jury to be picked for the week-long trial. They went through 186 individuals. The Commonwealth at the trial was seeking the death penalty by electric chair. And the defense was arguing, yes, he did it, but he was mentally ill. So therefore, he should not have to receive the death penalty. It took the jury of 10 men and 2 women 9 votes in order to come up with the verdict, and it took 6.5 hours of deliberation. After he was found to be guilty, he was sentenced to death. After years of psychiatric testing and appeals, Norman actually came within 13 days of his execution before it was extended by the governor. In 1957, Norman's death sentence was commuted to life in prison by Governor Leader. And at that time, which I'll agree with the book, there was an extreme push for him to be paroled, and that the parole board should hear his case to be released. That never happened. Norman died while still being incarcerated in the State Correctional Institution in Rockford. He died on June 5th, 1992 of throat cancer. His ashes were scattered on his mother's grave. This here is a picture of the jury walking into the